Many students are excited to start learning to play the piano. So they'll go and buy an instrument, they'll find a teacher, maybe they'll even pay for the lessons in advance, and they're really pumped to go. And then lesson 1 starts, and then lesson 2. And by the time we get to lesson 3, the excitement slowly begins to fade. According to research, 50% of students will quit lessons within the first 3 to 6 months of learning. So why does this happen? And more importantly, what can we do about that? In this video, I'll walk you through the most common reasons why students quit, and then I'm going to give tips to students and beginners to see how we can make every student's journey possible, but also enjoyable. So reason number 1 is unrealistic expectations. A lot of students think that they'll be able to play the piano like this after just a few lessons. When in reality, their journey will probably look more like this. This is actually after a few lessons. Or okay, that's where it will go to next, and then after more lessons, and after more lessons and more learning, and then after more and more lessons, maybe they're gonna start playing maybe things like and then after even more lessons, maybe they're now gonna play. And then after even more lessons, I mean, these things take time. Maybe they'll get into things like and then eventually, after years of playing, maybe they're starting to play all the which is basically that song, actually, and then they'll begin to understand, after having learnt not just a C major scale, but things like the A major scale, the chords in the key of A, and its relative minor, which is F sharp minor. That's when this will begin to make sense. And even then, they have to play it like this first. Actually, that's a little bit fast still for when they start learning it. And then eventually they'll get to hands together. And then so I mean, that journey takes time. So here's the solution to every beginner piano player. So just understand that your journey is a matter of one step at a time. Okay, so I would recommend you start with the very, very basic thing, and that might be a melody which uses 3 or 4 notes, like I played this one just now. And that song is not just a song for children, you know. Some people are like, that's a baby song. You learn it, and then you get the skills that allow you to then go to the next level and the next level until you reach your destination. You know, after you've learned that simple melody, you might now start learning some left hand things. So you could add chords to that. And when you play something like this, is already preparing you for the next level. Because when I played it in another key, but you can see that it's still the same idea of chords with the melody over here. So start simple and then build on that one step at a time, and it will take you to your final destination. Okay. And now let's go to the second reason why a lot of students quit in the beginning. It's simply that they do not have a clear practice plan. So the number of people that will just come to their instrument and actually ask, well, I wonder what I'm going to do today. And then they probably start just playing songs or chords or just noodling around, like, and then wondering why they're not really making progress. That's because there's no plan there. You're just messing around. So I like to give my students a practice plan. And everyone's schedule really depends on their life schedule. So how busy is your life? So I work mostly with a 45-minute plan or sometimes a 40-minute plan. And then you just adjust it based on how much time you've got to practice. So here's a typical 45-minute practice plan. So I might start maybe with the first 2 minutes just working on you being mindfulness. So that means you are making sure that your entire body is relaxed, and you're being very aware of that, because for everybody, our lives are busy, and maybe you've come from work, you've come from school, you've got all these things in your head. So when you get to practice, the first thing you want to do is to make sure that you're completely relaxed. So pay attention to your body, make sure there's no tension anywhere. So your shoulders are relaxed. You don't want to play like this, right? Your neck is relaxed. And most importantly, your mind has got to be relaxed. Okay, the last thing you want to do is to be at the piano, but you're thinking about whether Manchester United won the match or is going to win the match tonight. What you want to do is to make sure that you're completely relaxed. Okay, here, but in your entire body. So I can assign 2 minutes to just that activity. And then when the student finally feels like, okay, now I'm ready to play, I'm ready to practice, I'm ready to learn something, I'm ready to grow, then they can move on to something. And usually for me, I like that thing to be improvisation. Okay, so with improvisation, I usually try and connect it to the piece that they're going to play later. So let's suppose that their piece, maybe they're an absolute beginner, right? And maybe their piece is on just the black keys. I would recommend that they just practice creating a beautiful melody using the black keys. I'm even using one finger here. And I like to give them backing tracks or to record myself playing something so that they play with me even when they're at home. So in my recording, I might be playing something like this. And then the student can go. And I'm playing this, right? So I might play something like that. In fact, I wonder if you can play something with me right now. So as a beginner, we'll use black keys, and maybe we can play A wherever we want so that we can play something bluesy. So we're going to call this a blue note because this is going to give us the sound of the blues. Okay, so you can play whatever you want. You can join me there. You can play whatever you want. So this is the backing track. And then we can end it right there. Okay. So improvising is the first thing that I recommend. At the lesson, I would recommend that the teacher improvises with the student so that the teacher is accompanying and the student is playing either the high notes or the low notes, as long as it's some sort of duet, because this will develop listening and the student's going to feel like they're playing music from day one. Because for you to do this, you don't really need that many lessons, So I've done this with, in fact, I do this with people who've never, ever, ever played, and they're always surprised at how good they sound. So improvising, very important. So I'll dedicate 2 minutes to being mindful, and then maybe 8 minutes to actually being creative and improvising. So now 10 minutes are gone. Let's get into the next 10 minutes. I would recommend some sort of technical exercise. And there's two things really that I like to cover. So scales are the first one, and then chords. So suppose they're playing a piece and it's in the key of C, right? They're going to practice a piece just now, and that piece is going to be in the key of C. So the first thing that we'll practice then is a C major scale. So I want the student to know that this is directly related to the piece that they're going to play. Okay. And maybe they would have improvised there using that scale as well, right? So, I mean, earlier that was for like a day one student playing on the black keys, because I haven't told them the names of the notes or anything. But maybe by the second or third lesson, we've learned the white keys. I've told them that this is C and that's D. Maybe we haven't even done the complete scale. Maybe we've just done a pentascale, which is these 5 notes right here. Maybe I'm playing something like this. They should be able to. So they're playing all sorts of rhythms that they want to play, right? It could even just be long notes. And then, as the teacher, my job is to try and make that accompanying as inspiring as possible. So if I play rhythmically, they're probably going to start loosening up and playing rhythmically as well over here and trying to copy whatever I'm doing on this side. So I'll practice as part of the technical exercises first some sort of scale. It could be the pentascale. It could be the major scale. Because see, if they practice that scale, that means they're going to be ready to play those notes will fit right under the fingers. Okay, so I'll practice the scale, and then I'll also practice the chords in that key. So chord 1, definitely. So for now I'm in the key of C, so I'll play chord 1, but I also want them to know chord 4. And then usually I come back to chord 1, and then the other chord that I want them to know is chord 5. So this is an exercise that I give students and assign to them almost from the very first lesson, to just practice going from 1 to 4, back to 1, and then 5. So they've learned not just the chord, but the other 2 chords in inversions already. Okay, and this is now going to prepare them for the next thing that I like them to practice. So they do their scale, or not as fast as that, at their speed, and then the chords. Okay. If they're an adult or they're learning quickly, there's no harm in them playing the bass notes to that. Okay, so they could do that. And so we do this for the next 10 minutes, right? So we've been mindful, we've improvised, that's 10 minutes gone, and then we get into technical exercise, which is the scale and the chords. Now they can go a step further and spend some time playing some chord progressions. So a common chord progression, like in pop music, is something like 6-4-1-5. So I could tell them, okay, there's your chord 6, there's chord 4, there's chord 1, and then chord 5. Okay, so if I add, I could add the bass note, so I could play with them at the lesson. During the week, again, they could have a track with drums and bass, maybe even with guitar if you use some program. You could use Band in a Box to create your tracks, or I forgot what the other one's called. Okay, I think it's called iReal Pro or something like that. So you could just write the chords in there, and then it creates a backing track, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So here the student is experimenting with a 6-4-1-5, right? And they're just playing the simple chords, remember, because they're a beginner. But as they're playing, they're already thinking, this sounds quite interesting. I can actually think of 1,000 songs that use this. And if you want, you can start adding rhythm to it. Oh, they're like, okay, you know what? I'm starting to sound kind of semi-pro here. You could even say, you know what? Instead of playing those chords like that, break them into 2. So all I'm doing is playing those 4 simple chords, but breaking the chord into 2. And the left hand could be you. It could be the backing track while the student's playing all this. And when they leave, they're going to be like, I sound quite cool. I think one of the mistakes that we piano players and piano teachers, rather, the mistake that we make often is we've got these tutor books and these lesson books that we've used over the years. So a typical lesson might be we bring out the book, we put it in front of the student, and they have to read the music from day one. So that music is probably something that sounds like, because maybe all they're learning in that lesson is C, all right? But they're also learning C in whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes, and all that stuff. But to their ears, as a student, they're thinking, you know what, this is not what I signed up for. This doesn't sound like music to me at all. Or this is not fun. And then they quit. Okay. So while the book is important and while reading is important, I think do it, but alongside it, always make sure that they're playing things that sound like real music. I think guitar teachers do this very well, because I hardly hear of guitar students quitting lessons. And I think it's mainly because they come to the lesson wanting to play maybe songs by whoever their favorite artist is. The teacher will teach them 3 chords, 4 chords, and by the time they leave, this student can already play at least one of their favorite songs or songs from whatever band. In fact, they could even join or form a band with their friends and just go on and play simple chords on the guitar, you know. Right. It's just 3 chords. So I think as piano teachers, we can learn from that and we can inspire our students so that after day 1, they can go home and actually play some songs and start to experiment with other songs that use exactly the same chords. Okay, so here I've recommended or suggested 10 minutes of practicing a chord progression. Okay, and again, it's in the key of the song that they're going to spend time on in this practice session. Okay, so they've been mindful. They have done some sort of technical exercise which included scales and chords. They've improvised, by the way, and then now they're playing a chord progression in that key. If they were doing, like earlier I was playing the Turkish March by Mozart, right, which is in the key of A, I would have then, in my practice session, got the student to improvise using the A major scale. And then they also need to know chord 1, chord 4, chord 1, chord 5, right? Even chords in the minor key. That way, because they've been playing all these things like will make sense, because they can already see that, oh wait, that's an F sharp minor chord and these notes are in the scale. And then here, oh, they can see, well, that's my 5 chord. That's a C sharp 7. So I've gone from F sharp minor to C sharp 7. Back to chord 5. Okay, and how useful that is, I mean, from day 1, until they can play this. It's the same information. We've just gone from a lower level to a higher level, but the information is basically the same. So, I mean, why not teach or equip students with this information early on, rather than to wait for years and years and years before they can play or understand that? All right, so the last thing I would then add to the practice session, and I would maybe spend most of the time in this, is the repertoire. So whatever piece they're working on. So back to our absolute beginner, who is playing in the key of C. They've played a C major scale, they've improvised in the key of C, and now they're working on their song, which is probably, I don't know, it might be and maybe it's just the right hand, okay? But because they've practiced the scale, they know what they're doing. If they play hands together, maybe this is in week 3 or 4 or whatever, they know that, okay, that's a 1 chord, that's a 5 chord, okay? So everything that they're doing in their practice, they can see the connections between these things and see the relevance of learning them. Because I think one of the reasons people just say, I don't want to do this anymore, is actually they don't even see the point. I once had a student come to me who said, I don't see the point of what that other teacher is teaching me. Okay, but that's a story for another day. Let's go to the next reason that I believe beginner piano students quit. Okay, and that is, hello there, my music family and friends. I just wanted to take a quick break from the video, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. Now, really quickly, did you know that about 75% of the people that watch my videos are not yet subscribed to this channel? That means there's a chance that you're probably not subscribed either. So if you're not subscribed, please do me a favor and go and click on that subscribe button. That's really going to help me to continue creating content like this and for this channel to do really well. So I've already mentioned the books that we music teachers like to use, and sometimes they restrict students to either the black keys only in the beginning and maybe to a certain range, and sometimes just middle C. So maybe it's 1 note at a time and then 2 notes and so forth. So while I think that's important, those songs might not necessarily be the fun songs for the student to play. They might not enjoy Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Mary Had a Little Lamb, but they might enjoy playing maybe I don't know, the Packable Canon or something like that, which you can simplify and play in chords, for instance. So while they're learning with just the right hand, I mean, you've already assigned chords and things like that, so they should be able to play. And I'm not necessarily saying this all happens on day 1. You know, this could be on week 7. It could be in month number 3. Whenever it is, you just want to make sure that you don't leave these things too late to the point where students are bored to death with lessons. Okay, maybe they're not a visual learner, or maybe they've got some learning condition, and reading is actually difficult for them. Okay, you don't want them to start feeling like, I could never do music, because there are a lot of people with all sorts of conditions who play beautiful music. In fact, there are even blind people who play. So reading, very important and very useful, and to be done if you can, but it's not the end of the world if someone cannot do that, right? Or if you delay it a little bit, it's not necessarily the end of the world. So repertoire. Okay, so because you've assigned chords and things, one of the things I do in my Play Piano Like a Pro program is I give my students a list of, so far I've got 150 songs that come from just 4 chords. Okay, and I think I'm going to continue building to that list, because students can then, after you've shown them the 4 songs, the 4 chords, they can play all these songs that they probably enjoy. So with the 6-4-1-5, I'm going to stick with that idea for now. So they've played it. If you add a bit of rhythm, like what I'm doing now, they're probably starting to feel, this sounds cool. Maybe they've broken the chord, right? they can realize that, wait, this starts to sound like some songs that I know. Okay, and this curiosity is just fantastic. That's going to make them want to keep playing and maybe play for the rest of their lives. And they really know what they're doing now. This actually takes me to another point which is quite related to the one I've just mentioned about repertoire. And I think one of the main reasons students quit is because of too much theory early on. Okay, so as important as it is, so I'm not saying any of these things are not important, but if on the first lesson, if I try and imagine a typical traditional lesson, before you've played music that you actually enjoy or understand or even want to learn, you've probably been bombarded with all these musical terms which are in a foreign language. Maybe they're Italian terms. So you're being told about piano and forte, mezzo forte. You've been told, okay, that's a repeat sign. This is a time signature. This is a crotchet or a minim or a semibreve. Or it's also known as a half note and a quarter note. And, there's just so many, okay, these are the bars and these are bar lines. So it's just a lot of information. If you try and think of this from the student's point of view, this is just a lot of information, which, again, from their perspective, they might be like, why am I even doing this? Or do I actually need to know this? So here is the solution that I recommend for both students and teacher, is we can always try and make connections between these things. So this theory can be introduced in a more practical and fun way. So maybe instead of just saying time signature, or instead of just naming note values, we could say with these chords something like, maybe can you play chord 6 for 2 counts? Or what you could do is you can write the Roman numeral 6 and then on top of it put a half note, so that they know that they're playing this note or this chord for 2 counts. Okay, so 1, 2, and then they go to chord 4, 1, 2, also for 2 counts. 1, 2, 1, 2. You could even say in each measure or in each bar, play each chord for 2 counts, or play each chord as a whole note. Okay, so now the theory that you want them to learn in the beginning can still be learned, but it's in the context of something that they find practical and something that they find enjoyable. I hope to my fellow teachers, you're hearing how many times I say they, because at the end of the day, music lessons are all about the student. Okay. I think it's also very important, speaking of they, that as a teacher, we mentioned repertoire and theory. It's very important that we also teach them the songs that they want to learn, because I think that's, again, one of the main reasons they quit. So when they come, if they want to play in church someday, well, let's teach them some church songs. If they want to play in a band someday, well, teach them the skills that they need in order to reach their goal. Okay. If the Beatles is all they want to play, well, let's do the Hey Judes and Let It Be and all that stuff. There's no reason to delay those things. And we'll use our theory and all that stuff to help them on their journey. What I find is, again, balance is very important, because like in my case, my teacher, when I was 9 or 10 or 8, I don't remember, they taught me the songs that I wanted to do, and the songs that I wanted to learn at the time were mostly songs from church. Okay, because I wanted to play in church, because I thought those guys are cool. I want to be one of those guys. So I learned those songs, and then as the years went by, in fact, while he was teaching me my songs, alongside that, he was also teaching me some songs that I didn't know. So I thought that was a very smart move to introduce me to new material while I'm also doing my stuff. Okay, because I didn't mind his new material as long as I was doing what I wanted to do. Right? And I think that's human nature. Our students probably think like that. So you can introduce them to other stuff, but make sure that their stuff is also right in there. And I think you'll probably find less and less students quitting and more of them actually enjoying what they're doing. Okay. So let's go to the next thing. I think a lot of students quit because of the lack of feedback. So if they're learning online, for example, they might not have a teacher. Okay, so that comes with all sorts of challenges because they don't know if they're doing it correctly. They don't know if they're making progress. So one thing that helps piano students is if they can get some sort of feedback. So to students, I would recommend, number one, find a teacher. Okay, because that helps. Because they can easily diagnose your problems or your areas of weakness and give you very quick solutions to that. So that's option number one. And that option I give people again in my Play Like a Pro program, where there's the option for you to send me videos of your playing and then I give you feedback. I mean, that's one option, but the other option is I actually work with you one-on-one so that I help you with exactly what you need help with. Okay, and we can get to your problem fast so that you get to your destination as quickly as possible. Okay, so you can check that out in the description. I'm going to put a link to my program. I've already done some free workshops on that, which I'm happy to send links to. In those workshops, you will find information about all these services that I offer. Getting a teacher is the fastest way to get feedback. Another way, if you cannot afford a teacher, is to record yourself. Okay, so if you play, so let's say you're working on, I'm going to go with, I'm going back there. So let's say you've played just that. By the way, if I couldn't call this what I've just done there practice because I'm doing two things at once. So I played, but I'm talking at the same time. So my focus is not really on my playing. So I wouldn't be surprised if my playing there was not good at all. But if I focus, or if I've recorded that, I can listen back and I might hear that, you know what, that left hand was too loud. So I want a better balance between my hands. So I might go, so. So I'm working on just that phrase, making sure that there's balance between my hands. So from recording, you can diagnose a problem yourself. And then when you are practicing, you are working on that one thing to make sure that that one thing gets better. And the better you get at one thing, and the next, and the next, and the closer you start getting to your destination. Okay. And the closer you're getting there, the more fulfilled you are, and the less chances of you quitting, okay, and enjoying. All right. So I'd recommend feedback from a teacher or record yourself. That's quite an easy solution. And then the final problem that I see which makes people quit their music lessons is the lack of a consistent practice schedule. Okay. So not only does your practice have to be planned, it's got to be consistent. And by consistent, I mean I recommend that you practice every day. And some people are probably wondering, what do you mean every day? I mean every day. Including Saturday and Sunday? Yes, including Saturday and Sunday. I love what Dr. Suzuki used to tell his students. He used to tell them, you don't have to practice every day, but only practice on the days that you eat. And that was just a clever way of telling those children to practice every single day. I like what Kenny Werner said the one time. He was telling his jazz students that practice should be like brushing your teeth. So teeth are, well, hopefully something that you do every day, brushing your teeth, you know, and you do it with no expectation of like progress, like, ooh, the teeth are getting whiter by the day. It's just something you do. So students often underestimate the need to be practicing consistently, and therefore they don't make progress and then quit. The teacher also gets frustrated, and I think these two things combined just make the student eventually say, you know what, enough is enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And usually the teacher is like, okay, I'm happy to see you go too, because you do not practice. So I recommend making it a daily habit. Right, so I want us to try something together. So first of all, to just breathe. So you breathe in and then out. Okay, you just want to make sure everything's relaxed. Breathe in one more time. And out. Okay. I want you to create a song with me. Okay. Whether you're a beginner or whether you've played before, we can play something beautiful together. Right. We're going to do this simply on the black keys. Okay. I'm seeing the sun behind me there. So we could create a picture of a beautiful scene like the one I've got outside, but maybe just earlier in the day and the sun's rising, birds singing, tweeting, whatever they do. And all you're going to do is to gently stroke some black keys. I want us to play a duet. So you can play the high notes and I'll play the lower ones. So here, I'm going to join you now. So you take over on that side. Let's end this song on any black key, and you can allow your arms to just float off the keys of your keyboard, and you can go back into a relaxed state. Okay, so this is always a very good way for you to start a practice session. Okay, just improvise, create. So if you know any other reason why beginner students quit, maybe you started this piano journey and you quit, please do let me know in the comment section a bit of your story. And if you've got any questions about anything that I said, again, please feel free to comment. If you haven't subscribed to this channel already, please do so. And if you like what you see, please feel free to give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.